Today we're making Frito pie, which is a Texas staple that you'll see pretty commonly, but I'll argue we can make probably a better and quicker version at home, so that's exactly what we're gonna do. So at its core, Frito pie is really three things. It is first gonna be kind of a red chili meat-based sauce, no beans at all. That is then poured over some Fritos and then kind of topped with cheese, maybe a little bit of onion, maybe some cilantro and things like that. So I'm gonna make a kind of a simple version. So I used the frozen kind of braised meat framework. This is actually smoked chuck roast that I smoked over the weekend. Just kind of threw it in the freezer, so that's what I'm gonna be using. You could use braised chuck roast, you could use ground beef for this. Whatever you have is gonna work great. Then I got two different styles of Fritos. I think we're gonna compare and contrast. I kind of like the honey barbecue twists, so we'll see maybe which Frito ends up being a little bit better. But for this, pretty simple. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of take a slightly easier version. Right, you could make your own enchilada sauce, do all the dried pepper stuff, but at its core, I mean, this is kind of supposed to be a simpler thing to make. I mean, we're just using packaged Fritos already. And people may scoff at Frito pie in general, but I'll argue if you have Frito pie, you're just gonna enjoy it. You know, we are gonna chef ours up a little bit. I'm not gonna go completely just straight up canned enchilada sauce, but I am gonna bring this to a simmer. And then one of the things I think people maybe don't do enough of as home cooks is like buy a store-bought ingredient, but then you can kind of spruce it up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is just give this a quick little taste. And you know, it's kind of fine. It's actually got the right amount of spice, but I want a little bit of smokiness. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of smoked paprika to this. And then also add a little bit more garlic powder. And again, kind of just adjusting as I see fit here. There's no right or wrong. You're just purely going by taste. But just gonna bring a little bump in the aromatic flavor of our enchilada sauce. Or if you happen to have an enchilada sauce you just really like, I mean, feel free to just roll with that. And then, like I said, this is a chuck roast that I braised, or sorry, that I smoked. You know, everyone smokes big briskets, but like if you buy a whole brisket, really expensive, chuck roast, and you want to throw something on the smoker, really, really good item to do that. And I think I have a clip of me kind of shredding all this stuff up. But what I'm going to then do is just throw this smoked chuck roast into my sauce and kind of let everything stew down. And this is one of those big benefits of doing this kind of frozen meat prep, where I didn't specifically know that I was going to make Frito pie with this. I was actually thinking tacos, and then I got a hankering for some Frito pie, so that's where we ended up. So I'm going to let that all defrost, and the only other thing we have to do is just prep some of the fresh components. So I'm going to do a little bit of cilantro. Raw onion is another kind of classic, which I think I have this over here from the other video. Just going to pull off a couple of layers and get some thinly sliced white onion. And raw onion for this does give it that nice little pungent bite that, I mean, pickled would be great too. But I think raw onion is one of these use cases that is pretty classic for Frito pie, just to give you that little pungency. Oh man, I'm kind of bubbling up everywhere. Holy smokes. All right. Oh my. Splash zone. I'm gonna throw a lid over this too to let it steam. Let that meat kind of steam a little bit. Okay. Then the only other thing we need is some shredded cheese, which I think my grater is in the dishwasher. Yeah. Oh, and some crema for sure. And a little bit of hot sauce. Yeah. And this is a great example of one of those dishes where, you know, you can make it as easy or as hard on yourself as you want to. We're kind of going the easy route, smoked braised meat, canned enchilada sauce, added a little bit of spices to it, and then we just have some cheese, a little hot sauce, a little crema, some onion. Did not need that much cheese, but it's fine. And this dish kind of has a surprising amount of parallels to chilaquiles, right? Like chilaquiles are, you know, kind of fried tortilla chips, you pour sauce over it, and this is very much like a Tex-Mex kind of Americanized version of that, I think from kind of the 50s, maybe the 40s, where it kind of originated or first was seen with Fritos, and then, you know, now it's a pretty common thing you'll see at, you know, maybe a little food truck stop in Texas, or I like it from some of the barbecue places because they'll typically use the smoked meat. That's kind of where I got the idea for using some smoked meat, and kind of load it up a little bit. But there are kind of pretty basic versions where it's just ground beef in kind of a chili sauce, poured over some Fritos, little shredded cheese on top, and you know, that's really all there is to it. But one of the things I want to test today is we're going to do the chili cheese corn chips versus the honey barbecue corn chips, and see which Frito pie reigns supreme. Grab out a bowl. Actually, do I want to use the big bowls or the little bowls? I don't know what will look better on camera, but the way that I want to make this, I'm not sure. So Fritos first, and then also I have another take when it comes to Frito pies. I've had it a couple places where they just give you way too many Fritos, and then it's kind of a bunch of Fritos, sauce, and the cheese, or the sauce meat, and then just some cheese on top. But I definitely actually like to kind of create a quote-unquote pie with doing Fritos cheese. And you'll see this in maybe the casserole versions of this dish, where they'll kind of do the stacking method. And then, but for casseroles, I think it gets a little bit too soggy. So I like to kind of do a little fresh variation, a made-to-order version, like this. And then we're gonna go some cheese in the middle, some more Fritos. There. A little more chili corn Frito there. A little bit more cheese. And then that's our base. And then we're gonna pour all over this meat once it's kind of done simmering. All right, now we're starting to get somewhere.
forks too.
All right, I'm gonna just break up the meat a little bit too. Just to kind of make the texture a little smoother for our little kind of chili con carne type experience. Then obviously any texture will work. I think I like mine a little bit on the thicker side. Gonna add maybe a touch of water just to thin it out. All right. Okay, now for a moment. Again, you gotta go cheese first so it melts over, it kind of melts that cheese when you put the sauce over the top of it. All right, and then to top these up, go a little bit of, again, that white onion. Go for the crema drizzle. Then a little bit of habanero hot sauce. Just for a little zip of spice. A little bit of cilantro. And there we go. So with this version, you can't even really tell there's Fritos underneath there. And that's kind of what I like to go for is I almost don't want to see the Fritos. I kind of want it to be a surprise underneath. Then when I kind of pull up, hopefully that cheese has kind of just started to melt. The corn chips are just getting soggy. So quick photo, and then I'm going to dive into these. Okay, time to dive in. Let's get one with the spirals too. Okay, let's dive in. I do like the spirals. You get that like just touch of sweetness from the honey barbecue. Let's see how our chili cheese is looking. A little piece of. I think for me, it comes down to the texture, and I just love the texture of the spiral Frito, of that honey barbecue, and then you do get that little just bit of the seasoning difference in the bag. But obviously, whichever direction you go with your Fritos, whether it's the original chili cheese or the whatever, it's gonna be really good. And like I said, this dish you could kind of recreate this with just tortilla chips. You could use any kind of chili con carne that you wanted, whether it's ground beef, braised chuck, or some bigger pieces, or you know, whatever you want to make it. But Frito pie is like one of the most comforting dishes that you will have all fall or all winter. But that will wrap it up for me in this one. Catch you all in the next one. Peace, y'all.